Hi, y'all. I'm Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur and Amazon bestselling publisher, author, and all-natural product manufacturer. I'm a champion for your natural self-care, sustainable business care, and overall intentional wellness.
Hey, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, published author, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Together, we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co-founders of the Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week for intentional conversations between us and special guests about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. Often we have expert guests with us. Today, it's Shannon and I, because we wanted to give you an update. Because for the first time in 3 years, we went like 4 weeks without having a podcast.
Right.
And some of that was scheduled time off and some of it was not scheduled.
Some of it was not. And our guests are real experts. You know, they are really out here doing this work. Right. And who we had today for you ladies is currently winning an award, as our speakers and guests usually do. So super excited for her. Shout out to Olga. And we are super excited to lift up your work and talk to you soon.
Right. And have you back. Once you're, sometimes it just
celebrating.
Happens,
right? And that's okay.
It happens that you get, absolutely. But I was grateful for us to have this time together, to come on, to let folks know what had been going on, to press reset for episode 155 and just connect, right?
Yeah.
So season 18 has been a challenging season. It is. We ended up with 3 episodes in season 18. Our shortest season.
And I call it a win again. You know my vote,
Right.
I call it a win because we're really talking about wisdom in action. And that's what stood out to me. We didn't read a definition, but we always talk about what stands out in the beginning. And when you were talking about how do we do all of this, sometimes you need to
hit pause.
You and then reset after, and what we found when we were doing volume 2, we were about to start volume 3, right? So much to talk about in this episode. And on volume 2, we found the opportunity to pause more intentionally at certain places, right? So that's something that I've taken with me, like, where do we pause? And I think we did an amazing job at doing that this season, and it's absolutely necessary. So it's been an honor to have the opportunity to walk through it with you.
Right. Yeah. For our listeners, see, I don't even know where we left, folks. We had Kate Arms, who did the Transcending the Labels of ADHD and Autism, and Dr. Tracy Winter, Evolving Interactions with the Neurodiversity Lens. Those were such 2 good episodes.
Yes.
And then we had to cancel our next 2 shows. And so our listeners, let my words work here.
You got this.
I am of the sandwich generation, right? I just finished raising my kids, launching those birdies out of the nest, going to college and working, and taking care of elder parents. And we canceled the show. The first show we had to cancel was my dad had emergency surgery. And I was, I can't remember if it was that day. I was winging my way, driving back from Texas I can't even remember. It's such a blur.
Right.
I had gone to Texas with the Nibblings for the eclipse. Like we haven't been on since the full eclipse. Boy,
wow, that's a good point.
Talking about that energy coming through. That was some big energy. But I was supposed to be working out of Texas and working out of DFW while my sister had a conference. And that's where we grew up. And we got the news that my dad was being rushed into emergency surgery in Colorado. Yeah. So we made the decision to throw everybody back in the car and one day with 2 4.5-year-olds in the car, make our way back so we could be with my dad. And since then, and he made it through the surgery, which, we didn't know if that was going to happen. And then since then, his health has declined. So I think it was the next week or the week after I was already supposed to be missing because I was going to Amsterdam to check in with my youngest daughter who is studying abroad over there. And
Sammy! Happy belated birthday. Happy
Yeah, it was
belated
her
birthday.
birthday. And I didn't know if I was going to get to go or not because of Dad and what was going on. And I did make it. And that was a whole thing. And got to go over there and do Interplay with my Interplay Netherlands crew, Bart and Meg, give them a shout out, doing Interplay in English and Dutch, which that was kind of fun.
Good job.
And then I bopped over to the UK and saw my dear friend Ade, who is
you saw Ade? Hey, Ade.
Co-president of the Interplay board, and got to hug his neck for the first time in 5 years.
Wow.
And then I got home last Monday and thought, okay, we're back on track. Da 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 da. And I wake up to the news that the decision has been made that Dad is being placed in hospice. So, it's been a whirlwind, y'all. And I know I'm not the only one going through big stuff right now. Like, this energy is big right now. So, thank you for your patience. Thank you, listeners, for your patience. And our guests that we had to reschedule. We see you and we will get you in here as soon as possible. And I hope if you were looking for us, you had a chance to go back and review some of the 154 episodes.
Let us know which ones you watched.
And let us know which ones you liked and who you'd want to see more of. And so today we titled the episode Pressing Reset. Because one of the things that's really coming up for me is in times of big stress, in times of big energy, which I think is happening all over the world right now with what's going on in the world with war and genocide and what's going on with politics and what's going on with personal health and, just all the things, right? How do we press reset and really take care of ourselves in the 8 dimensions of wellness?
So I want to give you the space first, Christine. And first I want to say thank you so much for sharing, because I've watched you, right? You've been so intentional about making sure that I'm okay when we're working, that you have not been sharing on the podcast, and you are allowed to share with the listeners whatever you feel comfortable from behind the veil and the confidential files like we were talking about. Right. So thank you. This is part of what we've been pivoting and working through, guys, and so thank you for being transparent. And this is what we do in real life. This is what we do with each other. And this is, the part that can be difficult sometimes, but it's needed to say, hey, yes, I grew a successful business. And in year 3, this is what was happening, just so you know everything that was really on the table. So how do you press reset? So you come home, right? Your nibblings, car rides, all this stuff. And it's before the news that you get, because we continue to get news in life, right?
Right.
What do? You land home. What do you do when you hit reset?
Well, this time was a little different, but usually when I reset from a trip, because y'all know I love to travel, and I do travel a lot with caregiving and speaking engagements and things like that. Usually one of the just practical things I do is I dump my suitcase in the washer machine and hit wash. Because even if some of the clothes are clean, I feel like the energy we pick up when we travel, so usually part of my routine is, and it doesn't matter what time I get in, I usually get in the bathtub, and because I love my bathtub. I don't know if we've ever talked about that on the show. I love my bed and I love my bathtub.
It's important.
So I kind of do a whole cleanse. I dump my clothes in the washing machine and start that going, and I take a bath, and usually Epsom salt, because I do, one of my dear friends for years was a massage therapist. And she taught me years ago, as far as physical health goes, that if your muscles are sore or tired from working out, from a massage, from travel, because, when you've been on a plane for a while, I'm of the age that I get all locked up and I'm like, So she says, take a hot bath and put a half to a cup of Epsom salt and a half to a cup of, apple cider vinegar
Really? Do you feel like the vinegar, do you smell it in the air or does it neutral
You
out?
smell it just a little bit, but it kind of neutralizes out. But
Okay,
what
hold
the
on.
apple
What is
cider
that?
vinegar does is it takes the lactic acid out of your muscles.
Ooh. Okay, so
So
hold on, repeat it. A cup
about
and a half.
a cup, half to a cup of Epsom salt. Or, if somebody's made a really nice bath bomb, they're usually made out of Epsom salt. So you could just toss that in.
Look at the ingredients, y'all.
Right.
We
Oh
look
yeah.
at ingredients on
Yeah. Make
everything,
sure
but
it's
yeah,
clean.
yeah.
And then a little apple cider vinegar.
Okay.
And that's been part of mine for years.
Mhm,
And I was talking to our Woman Connecting Wisdom, Cecile Armstrong, the other day, and she does
mhm.
baking soda
Mm,
instead of apple cider vinegar. So like people
okay.
have different things they like, right?
She does the Epsom salt and the baking soda?
Yep. And that's
Mm,
how she does it. And
okay.
then I sometimes add a little bit of essential oil, like
Right.
depending on what I'm in the mood. Like if it's late at
Mhm.
night, I'll do a little lavender, but I do that. And then I also, depending on the time of day, I go see my flowers and my trees.
Yeah.
So I like to see what's blooming in my yard. I was a little bummed. They were still blooming like one or two, but my purple irises that usually do that beautiful bed. I missed the
Mm.
beautiful bed. There were still one or two
I'm
that
on the
were
left
blooming.
side?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
And they're and they always bloom for Sammy's birthday because I always go out and cut her some for her breakfast tray because we have a tradition in our house that if you're home on your birthday, you get breakfast in bed.
Adorable.
So usually I always know that they're blooming because I would go cut her some flowers for her breakfast tray. And but I was with her. I mean, not a hardship. I was biking. I accidentally biked 20 miles. Have I told you this story yet?
What? No, my triathlon friend, you have not told me this accidental 20-mile biking story. What?
Right? I mean, it was
How did
not a
that
hardship. I was
okay.
I was outside of Leiden, Netherlands, and I
Okay.
was in an Airbnb,
Mhm.
and they had a bicycle that I could use because I was going to rent one. And thank goodness I waited because they were like, "Oh, we have bikes you can use."
Yeah.
And so out of their backyard, I took a right, and there were these paths that
Mm.
went through the tulip fields.
Wow.
And so it was the end of the tulip season, but it was still, and I had in my head, there's a very famous garden that people go to. And I knew where it was. And it was about 7 miles away from me. I'm like, 7 miles, not a problem. I can make it. But beyond that was a smaller garden that was called the Tulip Barn. And it had all kinds of props and things. I'm like, oh, I want to go to that Instagram one. That's fun. And I haven't
Instagram.
posted any of this because of everything that I got home to. But
Mm.
so I thought because it was past the really famous one. And so I'm like, I'm going to go past it. And if I want to stop, I'll stop. But as I'm biking past, I had biked past fields of tulips
Mm.
and I'd biked past fields of hyacinths. And I'm going to tell you, I think they're my favorite because
I
first
love
of all, they're purple.
hyacinths.
They're
We could
purple
talk about hyacinths.
and they smell good. Like
Really?
this embodied, I can share the pictures and they're stunning. But to be able to smell it, like
Mhm.
I was like, what is happening here? It was magical. And so I biked 7.5 miles to the tulip barn.
Yeah.
I went in, took some really fun pictures I'll have to share with y'all. And then I took so many pictures, my phone died.
Beauty, beauty, beauty.
And I
Got it.
had thought I had charged my portable pack, but it did not hold a charge.
So you're out on
So
a bike.
I'm out on a bike, out in the middle of the Netherlands, 7.5 miles from my Airbnb, and I can't remember the address of my Airbnb. So I'm like, right?
Okay.
No need to panic. No need to panic.
Take a
I'm
deep breath. Hold on.
I'm gonna take a deep breath. That's exactly what I did. Take a deep breath. I'm like, hey, I wrote it. I'm gonna remember. I'm gonna remember.
Right. And what happened next?
So I get to this one giant tulip barn that had a
Okay.
giant tulip on it. And I'm like,
My goodness.
I don't think I saw it from this angle. I think I may be going the wrong way. And that should have been where I turned around or I did something. but I didn't. I thought, well, I'm going in the general direction. I'm just going to keep going. So I realized pretty quickly, oh no, I'm not. I'm going in the right direction, but I'm not on the right. It wasn't as pretty. It wasn't as, I was more industrial. I realized, oh, you've got an iWatch on. You can use that. So I text my people, hey, y'all, my phone has died. I do not know the address of my Airbnb. Sammy, will you text it to me? Yeah. But she's in class. She doesn't respond.
Studious. So studious.
Right? So studious. And then I get to this place. And so here's the thing. You know, I don't know if you ever have this when you travel. You start thinking that you can know the language. You start thinking that, oh, yeah, I got this, right? Or so I get to this crossroads. And there's two towns. And I recognize both of them.
Okay.
But what I don't recognize is which one my Airbnb is in. And they're both 2 miles and they're both in opposite directions.
Okay.
So this was where the whimpering happened just a little, because at this point I had probably biked 18 miles and my body was like, oh yeah, this is a little much. And then I'm like, all right. So I took a deep breath because nobody had responded. And I thought, okay, Gotro, how are you going to solve this problem? Because, you know, I like to solve problems. It is one of my things I love. So I thought, I passed a campsite right when I left my Airbnb. I passed a campsite. So I pressed my magic watch and said, find campsites near me. And it popped up with one of the towns. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going to head towards that direction. And the other thing that was kind of magical about this whole trip is when I got off the bus at Sammy's apartment, there was a blue heron, which, you know, blue heron shows up for me a lot. It's one of my special animals. And as I'm trying to find my way back to the Airbnb, and I knew I was getting close, and I thought, you know, I kind of asked that question, am I on the right track? And all of a sudden I look up and there's a blue heron and I'm like, yeah, I'm on the right track. And I kept going and there I was, turned a corner and there was my Airbnb. So,
that was a quick 2 miles. Y'all heard how quick she went past that 2 miles. It was a bird. I turned the corner. It was right there.
No. There was a lot of whimpering, kind of standing up on the pedals. You know how when you haven't biked in a while and then all of a sudden you hit that. So I'm kind of like, and I even walked it a little bit. I thought people were thinking, oh, she got a flat tire. No, my butt's just sore because I'm on mile 18.
Right.
And I was kind of stalling to give my people a chance to, and my people did come through, one of them when she got out of class, but it was with, Mom, I don't think you ever shared your Airbnb address.
I also do not know. Got it.
I was like, ooh, rookie mistake. Rookie mistake when you're traveling by yourself. You should always send your address to your people in case you get lost.
And charge your phone and the travel pack. Because
my phone was completely charged.
Okay. It was just a lot of pictures. You added another 16,000.
Just a few pictures.
I look forward.
I mean, but who could resist? Like, I'm going to pull one up and show you, and it may not be great because, you know, we're on air, but
it's my favorite thing to do, right? Show pictures on the camera on the podcast.
I'm like, I know it's a little bit ridiculous. Just forgive us, y'all. We haven't gotten a chance to connect. Things have been so wild. Yeah. And then I made it home. One of the reasons I came home when I did, in addition to Dad, was my Girl Scout troop, you know, that I had from the time they were second grade to seniors in high school. A lot of them are graduating from college this year. It's kind of about half and half. The ones that went straight out of the pandemic are graduating, and then about half of them took a gap year before they started. So the rest of them will be graduating next year. But I got to come back for one of my Scouts graduations.
I wanted to follow up with you to see how that was.
All right, so this is the hyacinth field. Like, right?
You took this picture?
I took this picture.
Yeah, this is definitely, and you said pictures, I automatically thought about backgrounds for social media graphics.
I got some, and I smelled them. Like, that's the thing. I'm like, you know how, you grew up in technology. I did not grow up in technology. It came on when I was in high school. Yeah. But it's so funny because we think, oh, if only it could. And I'm at the point with, oh, if only people could smell my picture.
Mm. Can you imagine one day walking around? Hey, I really feel like everything is going towards Ready Player One. Have you ever seen Ready Player One? Have we talked about it?
We haven't talked about it, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, virtual reality and in all these other realities in the meta more than real life outside,
I don't
playing
know how
skip
I
it.
feel about that. Like, I
I,
don't,
I think it's important to
except
stay grounded.
I may want to be one of the people that takes the pictures that go into. So look at all these swans. This is when I popped over to the UK to see Ade. He took me to a place called Castle Park. Wow. And I saw more swans than I've ever seen in my life. And do you know, so here's the thing I love about travel, right? Mm-hmm. You see the world or at least I'll speak for myself. I see the world in a different way. And sometimes things like make sense that I didn't know. So like, look at this swan. You know how when you're at a carnival and you ride the rides or the boat, the swan boat where the wings, well, I mean, that's based off what they look like. Like, I'm like, that is wild to me.
Yeah.
Had you interacted with swans much?
I think I've seen swans, and it's interesting that we're talking about them because that's what I've been thinking about for my wellness. Like, these things are happening, and how do you continue to get news and continue to, like we're talking about, deal with beautiful. Right. Come on. Words
Listeners,
getting lost.
If you're not watching this live, I'm randomly showing tulip pictures.
Yeah. Tulip pictures, swan pictures, like picturesque. Okay, come on, calendar.
Right, right. But you'll be seeing some of them in our social media shortly.
Make sure you follow us, right? We were talking about the community. Get plugged into the community on LinkedIn too while you're searching us. You might as well copy and paste the very long name that we have. Right. But the swan, and just letting situations and details that are not for you just glide over your back. This is where I am, but it's not for me. I'm not even dirty. I'm still clean. I paid attention to the detail and I kept going, so I love that you got to see all that beauty.
Oh, me too. I needed it. Right. I mean, there were some challenging moments, but there were some I would say more delightful moments than anything. Yeah. And just good food, good. Ooh, like I took Sammy. Ooh, we went to this place called Horn. Oh, there's two places I have to tell you about. So one thing we did for her birthday lunch, she picked a place called Paco Chow, and it was right there off Leiden Central, off the bus station. It's in this old historic home. Coolest thing ever. You had to go through a wardrobe to get to the restaurant.
Come on, Lion Witch in a wardrobe.
It was we were big nerds, and Leah's literature. Had no idea that we had to do that. It was so cool, and we had made reservations for her birthday, and they put us kind of in the conservatory with the big glass. It was ridiculously cool. And the food was interesting and good. I mean, I remember the environment more than the food, but they had good things. But then food-wise, for her birthday weekend, we took a train about 30, 45 minutes away to a place called Hoorn. I think I'm saying that right. Hoorn, Hoorne, Netherlands. And it was on the coast. And so I found an Airbnb that was on a boat. It was on an 1888, used to be a working boat that they converted half of the boat into an Airbnb. And so we walked, the place we ate the night we got there was a Thai food restaurant. Some of the best Thai food I have ever had in the Netherlands of all places, but it was phenomenal. And it was, I felt like a little kid. And Sammy got into it and really loved it, but I booked it for me. I did ask her if she thought this would be cool.
I understand. You're considerate. Always, yes.
But I'm like, what? I don't know if other people do this. Like one of my wellness things when I'm feeling overwhelmed is I dream about going places. And sometimes I just get on Airbnb and I look at random places to stay. Like, and I just dream and envision, because one of the things I know is sometimes I don't know what's out there. Like, I don't know to even manifest it or to dream about it. Well, even as I'm saying this out loud, I've been manifesting staying on a boat for a while, and it got to happen this trip, and it was unexpected because we didn't have it all planned out before I got there because of being at the emergency with my dad and this and that and her school schedule. So we kind of planned it when I got there. And because I was doing it last minute, and I wouldn't always recommend it, but this is a travel hack. Sometimes when you're doing things last minute, you get really good discounts because it's not booked.
Right.
So like this,
that's a slim road, to travel on.
If I would have had my heart set on a boat, I might not have gotten one, but this one was available.
It fell into place.
And I was like, and it was half the price, right?
Love it.
And I was like, woo!
That's mine. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it was pretty fabulous. And I have been really lucky in my lifetime to have some travel that is just life-changing.
Yeah.
And I feel like even this one, like, it really reminded me, for me, it was a reset on my wellness. Like, I walked probably 5 or 6 miles a day. I biked that 20 miles. I had time to sleep. I was toting my water bottle with me everywhere. So,
good job.
Yeah, that reset of, and I still held some meetings, and I still, there was some stuff going on I had to handle, but I wasn't doing a 60-hour a week schedule. And just even reminding my body of what rest truly feels like, and the joy, like the visual beauty. And Sammy loves, her major is history, and that's one of the reasons she's studying over there. And there's museums out the wazoo. And so we almost hit a museum a day. And so taking in other people's artwork and culture, and it was pretty amazing. And seeing people that I love that I hadn't seen in a long time. So
I love
all that was. And look at how the universe and God and spirit works. Because then coming home to the news of Dad, like, I did come home with a pretty full bucket and resources, and heading into this next phase.
So important.
Right? Which I can't remember what episode. What was the episode that we had when we talked about palliative care? Do you remember what episode that was? I'm going to try to find it, because that was such a good episode.
I mean, I'm sure if you search palliative care, you'll find it's not Lori Ives. That's Heart Math. It's
Dr. Delia.
Yes. With a C, starts with a C.
Hang on, I'll find it.
Yep.
You finish your thought.
Yeah, that's her last name. But so important to make the space for it, because that might be something that we might fight against. Should I spend this money right now? Okay, daughter's out of, studying abroad. Should I also go? Is this the right time for me to be taking a trip like this? This is all questions that, we hear women ask at times like this. And this is also why we say that it's absolutely necessary to balance the types of trips that you're taking, that they're not all family trips to caretake, that they can also be beautiful and lost for another reason, and, able to get the outside time and recalibrate. And like you're saying, come back full so you have that rest to pour from instead of continuing to go and go and go and go.
Right.
Yeah.
It was episode 117, talking about tough things with Integrative Palliative Institute.
And what's her last name again? Dr.
Delia. You pronounced it last time. Chiramonte?
And we spell it Chiramonte, but I think like the pronunciation.
Well, and she has a new book out, because I want to get her back on the show. I'm going to Google this right while we're talking. Let me tell you what her new book is. Because she does the Integrative Palliative Institute. And what is her new book? Let's see. Hey, y'all, this is a great place to take a break, take a deep breath, and hear from our awesome sponsors that make Women Connected in Wisdom podcast possible. Shannon, we are so grateful that Sheila Glow is the sponsor of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And I wanted to take this moment to ask you, when you think about the people who use Sheila Glow, who are we talking about?
That's a good question. I think about 3 groups, really. One, the group that's removing hair, right? So whether you're using laser hair removal, waxing, shaving, you got to make sure that you're putting back what you're taking out. The second group, I think about those with dry skin and the problems that might cause, right? The scars, itching, burning, whatever the situation is, you definitely need all 3 steps, right? The exfoliation, making sure you're taking the dead skin cells off, the oil, putting in the moisture, and then the shea butter with the aloe, sealing it, helping you heal. Those things help both groups, right? And third, for the third group is those with chronic illness. You know, the story is personally from cancer and different diseases that our population is dealing with on a daily basis throughout families as individuals. So I'm thinking about my mom and my grandmother and those around me with the same generational ties, right? And what positive, healthy habits we can start to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness, especially because the skin is like the cape, the exterior, the shield for your immune system. So with COVID, we have to be intentional about covering ourselves. And those are the groups I think about.
I love it. And you know what else I love about your product? It's all natural, handmade, and it smells great, y'all. So
esthetician tested. Yes, esthetician tested and approved. Yes. What about you? When you think about your company, what groups of people do you think about?
Well, you know, I work with individual coaching clients. I work in community classes and with corporate teams. And with all of them, I use a strength-based, embodied approach to help folks connect with themselves and access joy, reduce burnout, and build resilience. You know, especially during these times, I think we need it. I think we need all the hashtag partnership power we can get.
Yes. And while you're looking it up, we talked a little bit about it before the show, and you know, where your dad is, catching up on everything, learning through her episode that palliative care included care for the family was huge. I was like, oh, wow. When both of my parents were sick, you know, somebody, a professional to talk to definitely would have been great. You know, when my dad was sick, it's interesting that I talk so much. I was talking less. They were actually worried about me. They're like, she's not talking about it at all. Is she okay? And talking to somebody probably would have been a great neutral place to have a sounding board, you know? So I love that we had that resource. And even in that episode, we were able to help a grandmother with her situation with her 12-year-old grandson.
Yeah.
So the resources are out there. And again, palliative care is if you have somebody who needs the support as they're going through a major, you know, medical
Absolutely
situation in their life, and the family can have support, and so can they.
Right. Her new book is called Coping Courageously, a heart-centered guide for navigating a loved one's illness without losing yourself. And she also has a new podcast out, I think since the last time she was on the show, called the Integrative Palliative Podcast. So highly recommend. We'll put her in the show notes. So
definitely.
Yeah, well, we thought him coming out of the hospital, it was going to be palliative care. And then the decision was made that it was time for hospice care, which, you know, I've been on this journey with several loved ones, and it can mean days, it can mean weeks, it can mean months. You know, I had a dear friend's mother get kicked out of hospice because she got well. Yeah. I don't think that's what's happening with my dad. I think we are, you know, in the last stages. But the thing that I love about hospice, and especially if they're a good company, is they can bring comfort. They can bring extra resources. They can bring extra support. Like Dad's already met with the chaplain. He's met with the nurse. He's met with the CNAs. And folks that have listened to us for a while know he's already in a veterans home and has been for the last year because of a catastrophic fall. But even bringing in more resources for them, right? Yeah. So I'm grateful for that. I have a care team meeting on Friday with them, but yeah, it's when we talk about resetting and when we talk about having the resources to do the hard things, because you've been through this with your mom, like this is hard. It's not like it's next level adulting.
Yeah.
And even that being said, I'm grateful to be, I was thinking about you this week with this because, you know, I'm 54 this year, right? I feel lucky that I've had my parents as long as I've had them. Of course, I would want them longer, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And I was thinking about, and I said this to some friends, and I'm going to say it out loud, and it's a little scary to say it out loud, but, you know, I came back from that trip from the Netherlands, and then with my dad, to realizing, I mean, we all know life is short, right? So we talk about wellness. We talk about how do we do this? And I've been working so much. There are some things I need to reset on my wellness, right? Especially around my physical wellness. And I was thinking about this because with my dad's journey, I mean, it's really complicated, but a big thing is some choices he probably made 20 years ago have now led us to this place, right? And I said that out loud and I realized, holy cow, like I'm the age, like, because my dad, they were young, they were high school sweethearts. They had me when they were 21. So, I mean, this is 20 years plus a year, you know, and I was like, okay, this is a wake up call that I need to hit reset, and get some things off my plate so I can spend more time hiking in nature and cooking really good food and, you know, really nurturing my physical wellness. Yeah. So.
And again, you know, I understand, you know, a huge wake up call when somebody is very sick and now you're trying to have difficult conversations about wills and life insurance, and depending on where we are with understanding and how we feel about it, those conversations can go a number of ways, you know. So I find myself in my mom's room in this building where there was bed bugs, and she's passed away. So now I'm not going through her stuff. And I did try to take 3 jackets. I was bit before I left. I said, I have to throw these away right now. I cannot afford to get bed bugs, you know? And we talked about my mind and how I felt like it was all over the place and could be more organized. And since then, we've gotten, you know, Women Connected in Wisdom and Sheila Glow and Volume 2 and everything that I've written about from it. And it reminds me of Dr. Collins' work, you know, Sheila K. Collins, one of our authors and your co-author, and really making art of the things that we go through, you know. And I was thinking about how this November will be 5 years. And I said, wow, my favorite number is 17. And it's been 17 years without my mom actively in my life, you know. Wow. So to be turning 31 next Friday, and to say, wow, that minus 17, you know, is where the passion behind ladies being connected to the resources comes from, because I don't want it to be the very last second and we're trying to scramble and we find out things that we don't know through every situation. You never, you know, are we ever completely ready for anything? Could be a conversation. That's a whole nother podcast conversation, a whole nother book, you know. But just to know that you have the community, you have the resources to reach out to.
Oh,
why we do it.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, one of the first things I did was text our group of Monday Manifesting and say, hey, this is where I'm at and this is what's going on.
Yeah.
And having that support and, you know, some of it you have to walk through on your own, but you can have the emotional support even if somebody's not right by your side. Right.
And that's the reality of the situation is like, and that could be the lonely part sometimes when you feel like you have all these people. But again, the reality is that nobody understands the compound weight of all of your life stories but you. You know, people can understand as much as they can without going through it. You can even go through similar situations, but because of the compound effect, everybody's weight is uniquely theirs to carry, and you can have community as much as possible. But I hear what you're saying, and it's a thing.
You brought up Sheila and
Yes.
her work around grief. She has a new book that's coming out. I got a pre-copy, so I'm going to show y'all.
Yes.
So y'all, it doesn't come out until next Tuesday, but this is her new book, The Art of Grieving: How the Art and Art Making Help Us Grieve and Live Our Best Lives. And this is from one of our Women Connected and Wisdom authors, Dr. Sheila K. Collins, and she's been a guest on our show several times, and we'll have her back to talk about the book.
Dr. Collins.
It's a powerful book, y'all, with a lot of tools, and for me, very timely, of course. And she talks about in here grief being a spiral. That we were taught in college, especially, about Kubler-Ross and the stair step and the stages you go through. And she proposes that it's not stages, that it's a spiral. And that, it circles back, just like you said, on anniversary dates or on
Mother's Day.
On Mother's Day, which is this Sunday, right? Happy Mother's Day to our mothers out there who are
and the
still with us and not with us, and Heavenly Mother's Day. And and that, big milestones, big things that it spirals around, and we don't get to choose what comes at us in life often,
right.
But we can make art out of what happens to us. And I think that's powerful.
Yeah. So I want to share what I do to reset,
because yes, please.
It's the, and you ladies talked about it in your book, the still points, right? I love that, because I feel like that's the most concise way to say it. Take a point of time and still yourself, so that you can process, so that you can rest, so that you can heal. Sometimes it's a combination. Sometimes it's one at a time, but doing that on a daily basis with Shalo Glow really helped me through that process. Helping other people take care of themselves and having the resources helped me through that process. But what I do to reset, let's go specifically, because we love to do action steps and things like that, right? Is actually what you did, right? Pour heavy in the times when you think the drain is going to pull harder. You know what I mean? So you went across water, you had a whole trip, you threw it out there, you threw the fishing pole out there, right? But so necessary. It had to be that big of a deposit, not 7 miles, 20. You know what I mean?
My body was so happy,
Good. And so, baths, I've been talking about my facials twice a week, trying to make sure I stay on that schedule, even if my journaling is not at the time that I thought it would be, trying to make sure I don't go 48 hours without doing it, making sure I at least write down what I'm grateful for. If my mind is running on the solutions and the teams and the systems and all this stuff, okay, pull it out of that and at least put down something you're grateful for. So we're not in this constant conflict management or resolution or building stage, right? That helps me. Making sure that my food is set up so that I'm not more likely to grab something quick and then hormones or different things be out of whack because of the imbalance of nutrients or the things that are in the food that I'm choosing because of convenience instead of operating from a proactive place, and then even communicating, the past 2 years with expecting the compound effects of COVID, I've been really intentional about communicating, and the benefit of that has showed up in difficult situations as I'm like, okay, thankfully I've talked about it. We can be clear and meet each other easier from all different ways of looking at it, right? So that we can handle it and keep it light and not add to everything everybody's has on their plate, but still process things and do things like super adulting, like work and setting up projects and taking care of potential clients and learning new skills to continue to grow as business leaders and all these other things. So I would say pour heavy, is what I do to maintain throughout the waves of life and the cycles of grief.
Right. And I just want to say to our listeners here, like, yeah, that's lovely. And I can't do that. Like, I'm in the midst of like really big caregiving or parenting or work that I can't leave. Let's do the opposite. If we can't pour heavy, like what's one incremental or tiny thing that you do for yourself that you feel like gives you big return?
I would probably say, and one, I'll say the little things are big, right? So my station includes water. So that's water bottle, right? Today it was this. And so that, I think that commitment to myself reminds my body, my nervous system, no matter where I'm at, I'm going to have the foundation of what I need. No matter what happens, I have my water right here to stay hydrated. And I make sure that when I fill my water up, just like my gas tank, just like my phone battery, I fill it up 100%. I do not short myself. So you start full and I start taking care of.
I love that. I think one of the things, it won't be surprising talking about, I drained my phone battery, but for me, like a little thing that I do wherever I go is I look for beauty.
Yeah.
And I take a picture of the beauty. And people always make fun of me for how many pictures I take and things I do, but it's like a part of my art. So it is like something I can do on the fly, or I can do walking outside of a hospital or in an airport, or, I look for the art or I look for the beauty and I capture it. So if I'm running 90 to nothing, and I don't know if this is a good habit or not, but I think most people do it nowadays. But, I always take my phone with me to the bathroom. So, right. And I don't always sometimes I consume my own content. So I'll look at my pictures, I'll look at my favorites and remind myself of that joy or that moment. And we talk a lot on this show about being connected to nature. Right. And so a lot of things in my phone are nature. And it takes me to that place, even if I can't be out in it. Right.
Yeah. And, what that reminds me of is something I heard on this YouTube video. I've been doing research on reading the room and body language, rapport, all these things. Right. And a tip they gave for social anxiety was to count the colors. So that reminds me of the beauty, right? How many blues and greens and pink and stuff will start popping up, and that kind of recenters you with something that's not a threat. You're gently focused and you're present in the moment.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah. I used one like that with clients where you use the 5, and it's got an official term, but I'm going to not capture that official term, but it's your 5 senses. Okay. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And it gets you embodied and in your, but the same thing with the colors, what it's doing is grounding you. Right.
And, so I would like to add some encouragement in there and I hear you, right? I hear you that, hey, Shannon, you don't have triplets, right? Kate Arm had triplets. She's like, I don't even remember. Listen, we made it through. Okay. They're okay. That's what we know. So I know I'm speaking from a godmother role and not a mother role. And not always understanding the stretch of attention and capacity and things like that. But that's what I want to go to, right? Pouring heavy is based on what your capacity is. Right. And that's what I talked about in volume 2 is maximizing your capacity and adding healthy habits. So it's not about a weight and a goal of, you got to do what I do and work out 4 times a week, drink water and all these things.
Right.
If it's heart math, you know what I mean? And 10 seconds of deep breaths, I would challenge yourself to carve out that time. If you're saying, Shannon, I'm absolutely blind, I don't see it. We could set up a smart call, right? We could set up time. But I would say, as somebody who genuinely cares about you and loves you and has done 155 episodes because we're committed to your wellness, you're in danger if you are not taking 10 seconds, 30 seconds.
Right.
And there's things, you know what I mean? More than that. And there's things we can do to make it, pours into you, things that are pouring into you and not just pulling, because the kids will be okay. And I can confidently say that even without having kids, all of this stuff will be okay. The point
you have to take care of yourself.
Wisdom is because we've ended up not here anymore because we're not taking the time. So we support you. You got this. And whatever makes sense for where you are is what's realistic. And that's allowed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think I heard your wisdom in action.
Okay.
I heard pour heavy.
Oh, I like it. Because that's what's needed, baby. Because it's been, I won't say it's been draining, but things have been costing, during this season. And that's okay. It's not what you want is not going to be free, and it's going to cost you something. So I love pour heavy. What I have written down is, but it's not a wisdom in action. And so, that's one of the rules. But my hashtag is #what's blooming, and taking the opportunity to see what's been working, even the environment, like we were talking about before, today's podcast. Okay, you have opportunities here, and this is what you've actively been working on. But I've had beautiful conversations and things that are working, and people who are getting it and are appreciating it, and it's been blooming in that sense. So remembering to look at that as I pour heavy is what I'm carrying with me into the rest of the week.
I love that. I think because the stage I am, and I'm about to take off from Colorado and be there for an indefinite amount of time, which makes me let folks know we already had scheduled for next week off for Shannon's birthday. Happy early birthday. Happy early birthday. So we will not be live next week, and we encourage you to check out some of our 155 episodes. And then we plan to be back in 2 weeks. And so we will hope to see you there. But I may be coming to you from Colorado. I don't know. But of course, Sheila walks alongside me so much because of our 30 years of friendship. But I think my hashtag this week is make art out of what happens to us. So, because, this is a season of grief for me. And I want to be present with my dad and my mom and my sister and the nibblings. And it can be tough. So I want to make art and look for the beauty at the same time. So I think those are my two this week: make art and look for beauty. And so it's I'm grateful to be here with you, my friend. I am I've missed you. I've missed our podcast. I've missed our listeners and our guests. And it was fun today, y'all. We did several coffee and chats with some incredible people and some exciting news that'll be coming up in a couple of weeks. And just connections are so important. And just
and we have, what are you going to say?
I was just thinking about how much I treasure them and you and value the connections and just grateful. And I know we're out of our rhythm and getting back in that rhythm, and our listeners getting back in the rhythm. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity.
And for me, it's a continued new rhythm, that it's just like we dance to a certain part of our intro song, and, conference gets a little bit, they get the confidential part of the song, and now we're about to change the song, and it might be new for season 19, right? So, things are growing and evolving, and I'm here to, continue to pivot and change pace. And the point is to be sustainable,
right.
And walking
and to be well through it.
To be well through it, to be intentional through it. Things skew, so even if you get a reading or a diagnosis, or you notice something, it's like, I have an opportunity here. Okay. We have, we have the space to address it and the support to take care of it. So I'm super grateful for the work that we do. With that being said, I do want to let our listeners know where we are on some of our projects, because we've been talking about the book, right? We've been talking about the audiobook that's soon to come out for volume 2. And we've been calling, even through magazine articles, different things, right, for volume 3 authors. And so we've checked in, we've hit the reset button and let you ladies know exactly where we are, because of a couple of different things, because of how many we had participate, where we see we are in our logistics. We're going to press pause on the publishing, right? What this means for you if you were listening. you still have time to join us for volume 3. Okay. If you were on that list and you were in the interest call and we've already been talking to you about it, please check your email. You have some updates from us. If you were like, "Ooh, I want to, but not right now," the door is open for you, right?
Right.
And we look forward to continuing doing the podcast for the rest of the year. We'll pivot, like Christine said, but we're not going anywhere. If you're interested in the book and lifting up your story, sharing your resource to help women through times like this and to maintain any of our 8 dimensions of wellness, all of them intersectionally, right? Reach out to us and we can put you on the list. And again, Christine, thank you so much for being vulnerable and brave enough to do the podcast and consistent to keep showing up for us in the world.
Well, showing up for our life, right? I mean, that's the thing as women, we show up even when hard things are going on.
Yeah, we
do. It's part of what we do, and we can pause and take breaks, but life goes on even in the midst of loss and even in the midst of hard things, as everybody I think knows right now with what's going on in the world. But anything else we need to give a shout out for before we close episode 155?
So I kind of said it earlier, and I'll say it again just in case it's a different part or you have to be invited twice wherever you are with it, right? Join us on the LinkedIn community because as we take pauses, this is where we're looking to grow the consistent community that's always talking. Today's We Share Something Wednesday. So if you have an event or offering that you would like to share with the group, if you're a member now, you have the opportunity to put that out there, right? We always want to lift up your work. Tomorrow is Talk About It Thursday. There's a lot to talk about, so if you have a challenge and an opportunity or a resource that you're looking for, this is the perfect opportunity to get that ready. And we could talk about it tomorrow, see how we can support you right now in the moment with wherever you find yourself. But stay connected and we'll continue to pivot with you ladies, and looking forward to season 19.
I love it. Yes. Looking forward to season 19. Thank you. Give a shout out, a thank you to Sati, who's behind the scenes. We've missed you, Sati. We look forward to talking to you soon. And we will see y'all in 2 weeks.
Yes, ladies, here live at 5 Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, don't forget,
be well,
be wise, and be whole. We'll see you soon. Peace.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. On air live on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern via Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation and get connected at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.